So explain to us what libertarian is.
I hear that all the time. Let me tell you what libertarian is. Libertarian is someone who says you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want to be. Just don't force others to be like you.
Got it.
That's what we are all about. We are all about long-term solutions, not short-term solutions. We're all about changing culture, not just changing law. Law, we have to remember something. At the end of almost every single law is a guy or a gal with a gun who will put you in a cage. And if you don't want to go in that cage, he or she is going to kill you. That means you only use law when it really matters, not just because I'm angry, not because I don't like you, not because you should do some activity I think you shouldn't do or whatever the case may be. It's only for important things like life and liberty and property and things like that. That's when you use violence. That's when you use force. That's what libertarian's all about. Welcome to Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live. I'm so happy here. The brand is strong. I'm still drinking my coffee. It's what keeps me up in the afternoon. I live on caffeine and protein. It's how I survive. And I'm hoping you guys will help me out. How? By liking and commenting and sharing. I bug you every time because you forget. You see my pretty face and you go, oh, I want to look at this guy's pretty face. And it is pretty and I am good looking, but it's not enough.
You are.
Like, comment, and share. It does matter. I am very lucky today. I have the man in Kentucky who is going to hammer Mitch McConnell. I can't believe it. I'm so happy to have him. I have the man himself, Brad Barron. How are you, sir?
Doing great. How about you?
I am doing amazing. I'm so happy that you're back here again. For those of you who want some more information on Brad, over to Brad Barron. That's 2Rs, 2020.com to see what he's doing. And the biggest news, you have made your fundraising goals and you are going to be debating him and Amy McGrath, right, in October.
That's right. Yeah. And that's a big, we have met our fundraising goals. This is great. Took a lot of stress off me, and I've been able to concentrate on really getting things in line with how exactly we're going to attack McConnell. And how awesome was that? Everyone coming together to meet that fundraising goal. That it shows what this Libertarian Party can do when we galvanize under one banner. We're pretty impressive. And one of the things I'd like to say about that, I was just telling a reporter the other day. It's funny now. I have some reporters coming to meet.
Yes.
And I'm sitting there with them. And you know what's funny is I'm like, well, I'll see if I can fit you in the schedule. I said, hey guys, I've been on the ballot since March 8th. Why are you, they were being a little coy with me. It was like directly right after the 100,000 was raised, all of a sudden I was on people's radar.
Yes.
And that's something you and I talked about in the last show, is this is a snowball effect here.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, once you do one thing, I tell people, don't look at the ultimate goal, chip away at it. The first thing was getting ballot access. The second thing is, we didn't have ballot access issues this time. Gary Johnson getting over 2% here in Kentucky, we didn't have to get signatures. So that was a major hurdle. You didn't have to use all that energy getting ballot access.
But I want to touch an important piece here. I get that, but the biggest piece that people don't get, and we have a cultural issue here in the Libertarian Party, and that is people think, well, it's not about raising money. It is, because when you raise the money, that's when people notice you. The amount of press that I got when I ran for governor in New York was a lot because I'd raised six figures before I even got the nomination. Yeah. And now people are like, whoa, he's raising six figures and he hasn't got the nomination yet? And people came to me. Exactly. The idea of you being able to raise money, it's similar to investing in a company. People say, before they invest in a company, they say, who else has invested? And if someone else invests, then they invest. Oh, okay. Yeah. Now there's value. You validate yourself by raising the money. So congrats to you. You're right. Congrats to us too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you're right about raising the money. And one of the things I tell people is, it feels overwhelming to some libertarians when they see, my competitor, Amy McGrath, has probably raised closing in on $50 million. Mitch is in the 40s. And I say, here's the deal. We're efficient. Every dime you give us goes towards getting votes.
Yeah.
And I'll just leave it at that with all that money that they raise. You know, when Brad Barron takes in $100, that $100 goes towards moving Liberty forward, moving the Libertarian Party forward, and getting me votes. That's what it goes toward. You know, and
yes, but there's something else that people don't realize too, right? For us as a third party, and I'm sure you know this, I think our audience may not, so I'm kind of preaching to them, not you in this case, right? The idea is that once we get to a certain level, the goal is saturation. And you don't need 40 million to saturate Kentucky, right? Once you saturate Kentucky, if everyone has heard of you, then they go, whoa, wait a minute. And now they start looking into you. Our goal is saturation.
Right. Yeah, that's it. It doesn't take 40 million to get name recognition, you know, in a race like this. And I've always told people, truthfully, $1 million, you know, and this is a United States Senate race. And what I try to tell people on this too, you know, this is a 6-year term. So a lot of money gets thrown at these races. This isn't just like a 2-year congressional term. You're talking a 6-year term here.
Yep.
So I tell people, you know, but the good thing about it is we have down ballot candidates too. We have Rob Perry running for Congress here as well, that taking care of the Senate candidate helps the down ballot candidates as well.
Yes.
You know, if you have a legitimate race at the top of the ticket, whatever that might be, whether it's governor or a Senate race, whatever it is that particular time. And, you know, with this race, with Joe Jorgensen's campaign too, you know, the next step up, I really think, you know, those top two, you get your Senate race and your presidential race looking legit, and that'll trickle down to the other down ballot candidates.
Well, there's another piece that people aren't getting, right? If you're able to do what I really hope you do, you're able to saturate Kentucky to where everyone knows who you are.
That's a big deal.
Now, whether you win or lose or draw or whatever the outcome is, obviously I hope you win. But whatever the outcome is, next year, when you decide to travel your state, which you will either as a senator or as a previous, you know, senatorial candidate, either way, the press will follow you, and you can help all the other people running next year and the year after. And like you said, this is a 6-year investment. I love what you're doing. It's amazing.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. It's and the COVID-19 situation, of course, has changed campaigning drastically here. I would be lying if I didn't tell you it's disappointing, because it's my strong suit, you know, retail politicking, especially against my competitors.
I know the feeling.
You know, they're not really people that naturally can go out in a crowd and just relate people and shoot the breeze, so to speak. That's not their strong suits. Their strong suits is having a lot of money.
Right.
So not to be in a negative way, but I do think about it sometimes. You know, how would it be if I was retail politicking right now, you know, going a county a day? But you got to do what you can with what you have where you are. And a new poll has came out since they mentioned me in Newsweek, by the way, by name. So there's another thing moving forward. There were like 3 or 4 articles that did not mention me by name. So they're finally mentioning me by name now.
Yes, you're legit now, Brad. I love it.
We've
you're
had
legit.
3 polls at 7%.
Nice. So,
you know, just like you're saying with the media, I believe I'm closer to 10. You know, we had one at 9 when they had other candidate on there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really matter. 7, now that's been on 3 polls, Larry.
Yep.
It's kind of like what you're saying with the media. People are accepting, hey, the guy's at least got 7%.
That's correct. He's legit.
And they think in a race like this, covering the spread, they're like, that might be enough, where the Libertarians truly deciding the election here.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, so what I'm doing is
I want to bring this up for a second, Brad, because some people will get afraid and go, well, wait a minute. I can't vote for Brad now because he's going to help decide. But here's the glory of this. Understand something. Brad, if you win, amazing. If you don't win and you still pull 7, 8, 9%, what you've just told both parties is they have to worry about the libertarian movement.
Yeah.
They have to move themselves closer towards liberty.
That's right.
Or they're going to lose. They got to hear our message, or they're going to lose if they don't hear our message. And eventually, we're going to take over one of these guys if they don't change. We're going to have better Democrats and better Republicans just by your run.
That's right. And I tell them, we're not going to apologize. It's not going to happen. That's right. We're here. we're not pulling for the Republicans and we're not pulling for the Democrats. We're pulling for liberty. And I'm like, so you're going to move closer to it, or we don't care. If it's so bad, think about this, Larry. If it's so bad that we don't care, we really don't care. Is it Mitch? Is it McGrath? We don't care because they're both opposite sides, like you hear me say all the time, of the same fiscally irresponsible coin. And not just fiscally. I mean, look at the other things. We're sitting here still with this Breonna Taylor situation. Nothing happening. Oh, we've got an ongoing investigation. We've got 4 people on it. I don't know if you saw, but some protesters came up and said in Daniel Cameron, our attorney general, who is a Mitch crony, sat in his yard wanting justice for Breonna, and they were arrested.
Wow.
Yeah, and they were charged originally, Larry, with felony charges.
Wow.
So I come on, and while this is going on, I said, so let me get this. I said, they will drop the felony charges. And people are like, no, they're not. This is felony trespass, intimidating an elected official. And I said, listen, you're going to charge these people with felonies and not charge Breonna Taylor's killers? You know, and then sure enough, Larry, what do you think happened in a few days? Well, we've dropped the felony charges.
Of course. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. But, you know, people are like, oh, I'm like, that's
so let me touch that issue, right? What are you going to be, and this is Roman asked this question, what are you going to be attacking McConnell and McGrath on? Let's go first with McConnell. Do you have a way that you can impact and attack and that people are going to hear that message? Is there an issue or a policy or something that you can go, yeah, that's right? Yeah.
Well, one of the things that Mitch does is, I always say, his biggest strength is his biggest weakness, and that's that he's Mitch all the time. You know, sometimes you know, we can say, let's say we're winning big in something, Larry, and we say, hey, we're going to toss a bone to the other guy just because, you know, compromise is necessary in this world. Okay, we're going to give in here. Mitch doesn't want to give in on anything. He wants it to be Mitch all the time. It reminds me of a guy when I used to field trial beagles, dogs. There was a guy that it didn't matter whether it was, if he had 10 dogs and he was going against he had his worst dog going against one of the best in the country, he wanted to win. Doesn't matter, you know, he wanted to win 10 out of 10. And that's how McConnell is. He always wants what he wants, and he can't be anything but Mitch. And in a pandemic, when compassion and empathy and sympathy are paramount, he's not shining.
So you think this pandemic makes him look really bad?
I do. And I think that his corporate cronyism and making sure that his donors get taken care of, so to speak, has really, you know, I believe what you and I touch base on, like certificate of need laws and those kind of things. You know, it's looking like now that, you know, Mitch, here he is. Of course, you and I don't want a lot of government involved anyways, but let's look at it from, you know, just the mob, so to speak. How they're seeing it now is Mitch, what's he trying to do right now, Larry? He's trying to get protections from the corporations getting sued. You know, that's what's on his mind. And
that's number one.
A little legitimacy, but he's, like I say, he's Mitch all the time.
So you think that this idea of showing him as almost being just like an unfeeling, when the Kentucky needs him most, he still only cares about his cronies. You think that's a way of getting him?
Right. That's right. And also on top of that, one of the things that it's funny, Charles Booker that ran here, you know, that almost beat Amy McGrath, his slogan was from the hood to the holler. And it was similar to what I was going to say, is that he said, Mitch doesn't see us. You know, talking about before.
I like that.
And that was close. You know, I tease and say Booker stole a little bit. You know, I hadn't gotten the media yet. I had these things prepared. And he's like, you know, let's make history, Kentucky. Well, you know, on my Brad Barron for Senate page, I've had that on there since November. You know, and that's what I'm going to say is, one of the things I'm going to say is, Kentucky, you can elect the Democrat. You can elect Mitch to his 500th term, you know, or we can really make history. We can say we're on the cutting edge, that we understand now that libertarian ideas are where it's at.
Right.
And we're not scared. You know, that's one of the things I'm going to present, that we're going to make history. When you wake up on November 4th, every newspaper, every news station is going to be reporting Kentucky elects first Libertarian senator. And not only did they do it, they went ahead and did, as Brad Barron says, if you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly. And they went ahead and took out the majority leader.
So let me then add, that's the Mitch piece. How do you deal with McGrath, right? If people are really unhappy with Mitch, You know, the average Kentuckian is going to turn to McGrath, right? That's because they only think two sides. It's blue or red. And if they're tired of the red, they either stay home or they vote blue. How do we get the people of the McGrath side?
Well, the McGrath side, for one thing, we've been given a little of a gift here with the Booker situation. In these polls that I spoke of earlier, Larry, she has went down.
Oh,
she was up 1 point on Mitch previous to the Booker surge. She had went up for the first time in the polls. She was at, I think, 41. Mitch was at 40. I was at 9. Or other candidate was at 9. And then there were several undecided. Well, this one, Larry, there was less undecided. He had went up 45-41. So the Booker situation took its toll on her. And break out the Scott Horton rule. We're better than the left on the things they think they're better than. I have always been, if you dig back, Justice for Breonna Taylor. Rand has introduced the Justice for Breonna Taylor bill. Okay? And like we talked about before, meet the new libertarian, same as the old libertarian. We've been at the forefront of this stuff way longer. It reminds me of Joe Biden here. Them talking about social justice over here and whatnot.
Yep.
Well, you're the ones that made the laws to put people in jail. You know, you were one of the architects of the crime.
So hold on. Let's go to what you just brought up, right? I mean, you've got Rand in your state.
Yeah.
You've got Thomas Massey in your state, right? Is there any chance you can somehow connect yourself? I know they're not going to endorse you because they're Republicans and they're part of the system and they're not going to endorse you. I know they're not going to. God, I wish they would, but I know they're not going to, right? So, but how do you connect yourselves with them? Is there a way that you can do that?
Yeah, there's a way. Rand happens to, I've met Rand and, you know, we've talked. Yeah. And let me just say that I think Rand is going to set this one out.
That makes sense. No, I get it. I get it. If I'm in his shoes and if I was a Republican and I was in his shoes, I'd probably just I don't know, get sick or something and you can't, I can't talk.
Exactly.
I think I would too.
And I'm saying this in a positive way.
Yes, I get it.
Yeah, you know, because a non-endorsement for Mitch is good enough.
Yeah.
You know, from those guys. And I get where they're coming from. And that's something I have to explain. You know, a lot of people tag them on Twitter and whatnot. Why aren't you endorsing Brad Barron? You know, I get it.
I do too. I'm a politician. So are you. We're politicians. We get it.
Yeah, they both would. But that party would turn on them so quickly, you know, if that were the case. It'd be second only to probably Trump's impeachment. You saw what they did to Justin Amash.
Absolutely, yes. Yes.
Yeah, so I get it, And but Rand and I live in the same county.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we share a really close mutual friend. Yeah,
so let me ask you about a specific, do you have a specific policy or something like that that you know is going to affect, you know, that's going to make Mitch look bad and that's going to make you look good? That is, I guess, radical enough that people will notice, but, you know, acceptable enough that people would hear it.
Yeah. Well, I think the Breonna Taylor situation.
That's it. That's the big one.
Yeah, you've got Rand presenting this bill here in our home state. Not Mitch, Rand. Okay? And talk about moving us towards liberty. It's a double whammy here. Breonna Taylor needs justice, and we need to end these no-knock raids.
Got it.
So talk about
so that's a big deal in Kentucky.
Yeah, it is. So if Mitch sees, here's a situation where, and he's a smart guy. Let's pay credit, give credit where credit's due to McConnell.
He's savvy, that's for sure.
Yeah, and here you've got Rand supporting this bill, Brad Barron supporting this bill, but Mitch is going to stand in its way. And I think that's the
that's a commercial. That's a 30-second commercial right there, Brad. That's a 30-second commercial. You're showing yourself and Rand, the people who support it, and then the person who doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and Amy McGrath, back to her too, really the same things with Mitch you can attack her on. I was baffled by this. She was in the debates, the Democrat primary debates, Larry, and they asked her, you know, where were you? Why weren't you marching for Breonna Taylor? Well, I would have simply said if I were her, she has 2 young children. We were in a pandemic. CDC guidelines were don't be out in crowds. and Andy Beshear had our governor had a order out on not being in crowds, I would have said, listen, it was a tough decision. Of course, the Breonna Taylor situation is horrible, but I've got kids that think
I got two little kids. I don't want to get them sick.
And she just looked at the camera, Larry, like a deer in the headlights and said something along the lines of, I was doing other things.
She didn't think it mattered.
How are you not prepared for that question, on the debate stage?
Yeah.
I just don't understand how you can get caught by surprise. And if they're catching her by surprise on that, imagine what Team Mitch is thinking.
So let me then go to the other side. Those are ways you can attack and show they're bad. Mm-hmm. But there's another part to this that I think I'm concerned about. Many people are also concerned about. Man, how do we heal this? Right? I can't see. The Democrats aren't going to heal this wound. It makes them win. The Republicans aren't going to heal this wound. It makes them win, right? They're happy with the left-right fight. But it's tearing our country.
It is.
It's tearing our states. It's tearing our cities apart. And in certain cities, literally tearing them apart. Mm-hmm. So how do we heal this, man? How do we do this?
Well, one of the things I've said, and I'm going to make this short about the intro to this, is that one time I come upon an article that said that this was back in the 90s, Larry. And so where we're at now didn't happen overnight. Is where
Absolutely.
I'm going with this, okay? And what happens is that it was saying that a true leader is high empathy, low fear. I may have mentioned this on our last session.
You did not. No, this is beautiful.
No, I did not. Okay, but they were seeing the rise of a faux leader, a faux alpha, so to speak, of low empathy and high fear masked with chest beating. And I'm not going to mention any names, but I think you can, and not just one in particular, you can look across the spectrum. There's a lot of people
in
politics now that are not leaders. And I know, we're servants first, but then when I get to DC, I have to lead for Kentucky, you're banging it out with these other people. You're a servant to the people, and then you lead when you're banging it out with the other senators. And so that's something that I'm going to say. To heal, we need, and I feel this way, that I'm a low fear, high empathy person.
Got it.
And I want to say the only way this country is going to fall, and I think this is something both sides will agree upon, is a divided house.
Yes.
Say, look, one of my gifts has always been, I have friends. I grew up around conservatives and around liberal people, and I was friends with both. So they learned to be friends. We were all friends. And so I've been in that position most of my life. Is I want to be that candidate that both can agree upon. That this guy, we can live with Brad.
Right.
And that's the thing, too. Other than the majority leader position, that's a hurdle to get over. But there's no guarantee with the way things are looking, Larry, that Mitch, even if reelected, is going to be the majority leader. It's like some of these seats might get flipped, and he may be back down to minority leader.
Yep.
So I think a lot of it will depend on what the climate's looking like as far as that goes. But to answer your question, firstly, you have to have someone that is empathetic. I mean, to tell people, look, we put ourselves in this mess, so to speak, but we've got ourselves out of messes before and came out stronger on the other side. And one thing for the libertarian answer is, just on the way over here, I was listening on the radio to a farmer talking about the need for a strong local food economy. And that's something, me being a regenerative farmer, that I said all along, that we are way more susceptible to problems during a pandemic with the food supply as it is right now.
And the problem is, to your point, we don't see it until later, right? You don't see it now. You see it 3 months from now. Then all of a sudden, oh my God.
Yeah. So one of the healing, like you're saying, is I want to say we've torn it down. And really, that's what's going on. Like you say, literally and metaphorically, things getting torn to the ground. Well, we need to create a world. And the reason that food is so important and having a good, healthy local food supply is when you're eating healthy, you feel better. You have less health problems. And think about, one of the big health insurance, all the, medical
No, I see where you're going, and this is metaphorical and it's real.
Literally.
Like the local food economy actually allows for a local economy to grow. It increases commerce. It allows us as Americans to stop thinking of farmers as these crazy people who live out in the woods, which is what most of us city folk think of. I'm a city guy. See the background? Yeah. I'm a city guy, so that's what we all think. Oh, there's some crazy people who live out in the woods or something, right? And instead realize what farmers actually are. They are the entrepreneurs of the suburban and rural areas. Yes. They are the entrepreneurs and the backbone of most small communities. And all the people who flood into the cities, a lot of them come from small communities. And we've got to support those small communities.
Yeah, I'm sure you have plenty of farmers markets where you're at.
Sure.
I mean, the energy is, everyone I've been to, the energy is always good at a farmer's market.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, like you talk about healing, bringing people together and saying, well, truthfully, we don't believe in the initiation of force, but I said I may allow people the main media for 30. We might. That's the other thing too. Quit plugging yourself into negativity. Yeah. Get out there. Get to your local farmers market. Get out in the woods. Get out of the city for a while, Larry. Get yourself out there and breathe in some fresh air in the forest, and don't put on some old clothes and roll around in the dirt for a little bit. Reconnect with nature. Reconnect. Get out here and get off of this negative news cycle we're in.
I want to bring out a piece you just brought up, though. This is going to sound silly, but I think you're actually seriously right. You're hitting something that other people aren't talking about. You're talking about something grossly simple, which is just go to a farmer's market and talk to people.
Exactly.
And damn it, we'll feel better. We'll know each other better. Because I've been to farmers markets, even in the city, right? When people drive in and drop things off and stuff like that. But most of you go right outside of Manhattan to actually go to a farmer's market. But when you go to one, the funny thing, you've said it, and now that you say it, it's so bright in my head, and that is everyone there is caring about the same thing, just the quality of their food. They don't care what race you are, what religion you are, what ethnic background you are, where you came from, what language you speak, what they don't care. They're just like, hey, these are great tomatoes, and that's it, and that's all they care about. It's amazing. I think I'm losing you, Brad. Brad, can I get you to pop off and pop back on real fast? I think I'm losing you. Can I get you to pop on and pop back on real fast?
Yeah. Well, the simple thing is that.
Are you there now?
Yeah, just a second.
Let me see if I can get your can I get your video? All right, I'm gonna see if I head on out and come on back in. So we lost Brad for a couple seconds, but that's fine. No worries. You can come back in if you want to. So the idea that I really want to bring up here is exactly what Brad's talking about. Someone who's just talking about us being together, because I hope we beat up Mitch. I hope we knock him down. But what if we don't? Do we just get angry and that's it? There has to be some way to heal. And what I love about what Brad is talking about is he actually is talking about healing. He's talking about the left and right's not going to heal. It's not in their best interest to heal, so they're not going to. But instead, we can make sure that we are the ones who are talking about healing. We are the ones who talk about getting together. The bully pulpit is one of the most powerful things that someone in a position of power can have. And it's having the empathy Brad's talking about, saying, I hear you, let's get together, and doing the small things that matter daily. I'm sorry, Brad, I took some of your thunder because you were away, but it's just great stuff.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, but sometimes the simple answers are the right answers. People look, all these complex solutions, and we have to build from a foundation of health. That's why I always tell them, if you're not healthy, what's the old saying? Your health is your true wealth. If you don't feel good, you're searching for any energy, Larry, even if it's negative energy. And,
that's very true.
But we can blow sunshine all day long. You just hinted on it. People are in a negative set of mind, and they're going at it team sports, red versus blue, us versus them. So we have to balance that somehow.
I think in this environment, what is that people are searching for a mission. They're searching for purpose, right? And then all of a sudden, here comes the blue team saying Trump is evil. Let's get him. And the blue team goes, "That's our purpose. Let's go get him." And the red team says, "There's socialism. Trump is our savior." And the red team goes, "Yeah, it's evil. Let's get Trump to be our savior." And I think the vast majority of people on each side actually aren't thinking through the details of this plan. They're just happy to have purpose and a mission. And to your point, they're taking any energy they can have. If it's negative, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it reminds me of one of my favorite shows is Game of Thrones. And there's a character on, I don't know if you've watched or not, but there's a character on there, the Hound. And he's like, he was on death's doorstep. And this guy said, "What got you through?" And he's like, "Hate."
Yes.
And I mean, but it does have agreeable symmetry with what's going on right now. It's
it's a passion. It's a negative passion, but it is a passion.
Negative passion. I think what we need to get everybody behind is the environment.
Okay. I haven't heard this one before. Go ahead.
Yeah. I always tell people, this is something where both sides should be able to meet up on. Think about like Teddy Roosevelt. The conservatives really used to consider that like a masculine energy. You went out and planted trees, and you were stewards of the environment. And of course, the left, wants to take care of the environment as well. So I think that's a common ground. What I tell people, I'm not going to argue about climate change. I've been in this. I'm a regenerative, eco-friendly farmer, and I've studied climate change for a long, long, long time. And there's a lot of it that's, it's hard to articulate to people, if you're not into the science of things. But I'm not going to argue about whether climate change exists or not in this campaign. I'm going to say it's always the right time to take care of the environment, period. So
hold on, say that again. It's always said again.
Right time to take care of the environment, period. So it's a moot point whether climate change is real or not. I'm not even going to discuss it.
Brad, I love you. That's amazing. It's always time. Doesn't matter.
And that's it. So we're not. So just I'm going to nip the argument in the bud where they like to start it with the left versus right paradigm of of climate change, real or fake. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We have to take care of the environment. And I'll tell you something that I've seen lately, Larry, is even one of the good things are a lot of conservatives are sportsmen, like to fish, like to hunt, and they're noticing changes out in nature. They're going out deep sea fishing and seeing dead spots in the algae. That they're seeing it themselves, and they're saying climate change or not, by God, we're hurting the environment. We're hurting the ocean. We're hurting the waterways. The air's not pure. So I'm going to capitalize on that.
So as soon as you do that, though, what's going to happen, right? The left is going to go, "So you're for carbon tax," and the right's going to go, "So you're against carbon tax." And because that's the only thing they decide. They always create the wedge issue on any important issue, right? Because they don't want you to be thoughtful. They don't want you to actually have an answer. They want you to pick a side to make it easy for everyone. So that's going to happen. The left's going to go.
Oh, absolutely.
So how do you handle that when McGrath goes, "Aren't you for carbon tax?" Or when Mitch goes, "This is Mr. Green New Deal over here." When they do that, how do you respond?
And I'll laugh at them and call them out for exactly what you just said. And see, that's the beauty of being a libertarian and running this campaign. I'm already moving liberty forward. I'm going to, as time goes on, there's some things in play that I just simply can't mention on here. Chances are Team Mitch and Team Amy has people on here watching this.
I'm sure they do.
See what's going on. And I'm not going to say, but liberty, trust me, liberty, as Donald Trump said, believe me, liberty is moving the right direction here in Kentucky and probably at the national level, because like you said, I've got an interesting dynamic. You have Mitch, who is the consummate crony establishment Republican, and then I've got Thomas Massey and Rand Paul. That's an interesting dynamic to have.
You are actually, in a way, you're very similar, believe it or not. This is not to be an insult. This is to be an absolute. This is a compliment. You're similar position to AOC, my congressperson, who had exactly that. She had the guy who was, the absolute and total crony capitalist guy in Mr. Establishment, and no one saw her coming. And boom, she blew through.
Jacob Clark, a friend of mine that's running here, I don't know if you know Jacob, he calls it the Mitch-stablishment.
Oh, look at that.
He's really good. He's one of the best trolls of people I've ever seen.
I like that.
In a good way. In a good way. He trolls for liberty, and he does it in a way that makes people think, and he's really good at it. And one of the things he does is he says things I can't say. If something's going on about Brad Barron on Facebook, he says what I would like to say, but can't say.
There we go.
Yeah, but we need all of that in the party. We need the guys that are kind of the suits, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be a little more careful, and then we need the guys that that they're persuasive. See, he does a good job of riling people and then reeling them in. You see that by the end of the conversation. If there's 10 people that were not for liberty, he'll move 6 of them in a conversation towards liberty, and the other 4 we're just going to have to deal with them later on once liberty gets a stranglehold again.
So Jacob's agreeing with you. See, he's right there. He's with you.
Yeah, there are some that are so immersed in this culture you're talking about, this us versus them mentality.
Us versus them.
That they're in a state of cognitive dissonance where they can't accept facts. They cannot do it. I had one last night where I was explaining I vote very similarly in a lot of things to Rand. She was a huge Rand Paul supporter, more so than Mitch. And there was a moment that she kind of broke, and she begged me to drop out of the election because she realized, hey, this guy is telling the truth, and people are going to listen. I mean, she realized that she went from insulting me to begging me to drop out, Larry. And I mean, but no one said this was going to be easy. I mean,
if you look at the guys like Massey and Rand, very often they consider themselves constitutionalists, right? Do you consider yourself? Do you self-identify as that or no?
Well, I would. I depending on when you ask me and what's going on. I try to define what I am. I was born a libertarian.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I tell people. They say, "How long have you been a libertarian?" Well, since I was born, since I first came out. But I understand that, truthfully, there are good points from all the parties, and life is not easy. So you have to, if you're going to move liberty forward, you can't go with there's no true Scotsman, there's no true libertarian. Depending on the times, you don't want to be malleable like McConnell is, where you just go wherever the political ones are.
Right.
But we must be malleable. Like Spike Cohen said one time, people are scared. We don't need to go out and tell you don't even know what freedom and liberty. They don't. They're worried about paying the electric bill.
Absolutely.
Pay their health insurance, and so being able to bring our message is an empathetic one. That the reason we're for the rights of the individual is the collective is nothing more than the collective of the individual.
But this is what I like about what you're saying. I rarely hear you talk just liberty, freedom. You're talking about helping and moving people forward and making things better. So let me ask that question. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. If you win this election, or if you even get enough votes to where people are coming to you after going, Brad, what do we do? Help us out. Any of that, anything in between. Yeah. How do you think we begin? And I know it's not a 5-minute or a one answer, but how do we begin the recovery of all the damage that the response to COVID has done to our country? What's our first steps? Like, how do we begin that?
I tell people, and you mentioned the word liberty. We have to get it through people's heads. One of the disturbing things that I've seen with this is they seem to be okay with tyranny as long as it's tyranny against the other team.
Yes.
And I mean, I know this might sound a little rudimentary, but this is what's going on out there on the streets, so to speak.
Yeah.
And something I'm going to, I've paid a little homage to Booker, but I'm going to hammer him on something right now. Charles Booker. He had his, the BLM fist or whatever the other day. Whose streets? Our streets. I don't like that. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Donald Trump talking about dominating the streets. We don't need any of this.
Absolutely.
It is what I'm going to say. And it does not make you weak. It's quite the opposite. And I'm going to tell people, you have to go back to the rudimentary building block of, if you don't believe in liberty and freedom for the person you disagree with the most, then you don't believe in it at all.
Absolutely.
And these are things, you obviously know, but I mean, telling the people out there,
the
government strong enough to take care of you is a government strong enough, using quotes, to take care of you.
Right.
And
so you're saying, if I hear you right, and this is an odd, I love it, but it's an odd message. You're actually saying for us to begin to recover and to heal, It's to actually think about the other.
It is. We have to think that we can't be in this team sports situation anymore. It's okay to be tribal with your clique. If that's who you want to hang out with, Larry, if that's who you want to have dinner with, that's fine. But, and I don't think people are as far apart as the media portrays anyway.
I think you're right.
It all goes back to what I'm saying and getting out. I mean, you see why I've thought through this, where it goes back to getting yourself reconnected with nature, doing a little exercise, eating healthy. Then all of a sudden, you don't, why do you want to be mad when you feel good?
Right.
You know, you want to go out and have fun. I tell people one of the best things I've done in my life, this is the longest I've ever went without playing basketball during COVID-19. I play basketball at least one night a week under normal circumstances, sometimes two, all the time. People need to get their get their blood up. People need to do that stuff. But whatever your hobby may be, you need a hobby that you get out and you get your fight out of you. You know, I mean, yeah, that's leftover remnants from when we would have to run from something or fight. Sometimes we look at the solution as this complex thing. Really, technology has moved way along. There's still primal parts of our brain left
100%
that society and technology has moved along. So I'm going to lay all this out on the website, and I'm going to start doing videos. I wanted to get closer to where people kind of crave the videos coming out. I didn't want to peak too early in this thing.
No, I love it. But I got to tell you, the message that I'm hearing that I'm loving so much is the average person believes, obviously incorrectly, but believes that the libertarian is by default selfish. Right? That's what they believe. They go, oh, you're libertarians, you're so selfish. And sadly, many libertarians who fight back go, well, selfishness is good. Greed is, and we lean into that in a very bad way. You're doing the opposite. You're literally saying, for us to heal, the libertarian way is to respect the other so the other respects you. This is a very different message, Brad. I'm loving it. It's not the norm. I really feel like this is going to be working. I love this.
I feel like it is. And I've felt this the whole time, that libertarianism in many ways is the opposite of selfishness. Selfishness is enforcing your ways upon others. You know, that's true selfishness. And
absolutely.
One of the things I think a pandemic shows us too, look at how good we can all be, everyone, when we try. And I think it's our natural default for most people. I mean, people have helped. Look at how thoughtful a lot of people have been during COVID. I know we get the news likes to tell you the bad of it, but people, I mean, you see it, these fundraisers on Facebook and on social media and whatnot. Someone has a bad run. Almost always it's like goal 2,000 will be like 2,450. Imagine that's, like I said, I'm going to start out with, if I'm elected, that the burden of proof for creating value lies upon the government. I know.
Oh, I like that. Hold on, you got to say it again. The burden of proof. Say it again.
Yeah, burden of proof is upon the government to provide value. Just like, let's say we all get together, me, you, and a bunch of our friends, and we say we're going to buy in bulk. Okay, we're adding value. You know, if we buy this for $2,000 a ton, we buy 5 tons, we get it for $1,700. That's what the government needs to be doing. They need to be taking the tax dollars. If we're going to have to live in this taxation, then they need to take the tax dollars, and it needs to be transparent. And I mean, I know this sounds rudimentary, and people are probably shaking their heads saying, yeah, Brad, in DC, that's easier said than done. Look, I don't play by anyone's rules. That's the big thing that separates me from these other ones. I don't care what they do in DC. And you asked earlier about constitutionalism. I do consider myself somewhat as a constitutional Republican, or Republican, good Lord, libertarian, and I'll tell you why. A constitutional libertarian of the Republic was what I was going to say there. And the reason I say this is the message that the founding fathers had in the Constitution was one of government tyranny and how to not get there.
Right.
And that always has its place. So the Constitution is something that people, know about. It's easy to take them through that and say, what were these people coming from? Why does the Constitution exist? And one of the things I like to ask people is, do you know what makes our Constitution unique from every other one out there and every other form of government? And people normally don't know. It outlines what the government can't do. But you'd be surprised how many people are like, I don't know. What does make us different?
Yeah, no, I get you.
A document that tells the government what they can't do. And to me, that's pretty libertarian. You know?
No. Look, there are libertarians who think even the Constitution is too much, but that's okay. Let's get to that first.
Yeah, I get it.
Let's get there first.
I always tell people we can't. Where we're at now, we can't even talk like that.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm like, if we want to make headway, one of the things I love is when I see the libertarian platforms being where we're at and where we want to be. Of course, I would love a society with as minimal government as possible. You know, we all would. At the end of the day, us libertarians like to think we're so far. We're not really. What we all don't want is force and coercion put upon us by tyrants.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I agree.
I always tell people too, one of the problems we're dealing with here in the state is Andy Bashir and the mask situation. You've got the crowd that likes the mask, the crowd that doesn't.
Right.
I always tell people, here's the thing. If we really want masks on people, don't be defiant. I take an opposite stance on this too. There are people out there that if you tell them you're going to wear that mask and that's how it is, they're going to not wear that mask just to spite you.
And they're going to go to jail to show you.
Yes, that's right. Going to go to jail to show you. Well, I say the people that are going to wear the mask are going to wear them when they get told, here's the data or whatever. They're the ones that want to believe it, or whatever they're going to believe, they're going to wear it. So we're dealing with, say, a 30% of are on the fence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, with me. So if you just said, look, people, if I was governor and I felt like the masks were the thing to do, I don't want to get in this argument, but if I did, if I saw the data and I said, I think people need to be wearing masks, I'm going to say, look, people, I'm not going to force you to wear masks, but you're freaking crazy if you don't.
And I'm going to wear a mask.
Yeah.
I'm going to wear a mask. I'm going to tell people they should. I'm going to set the example. I'm going to ask the people who work for me that you please wear a mask because you work for me. So do the same thing I'm doing, right? Yeah. Follow my example. And you know what would happen? Most people would probably wear a mask because fine, the governor wants us to, fine, we'll wear a mask.
I disagree with you. If you have integrity and people respect you because you have integrity, they'll say, well, damn it, I don't think the mask works, but Brad and Larry are good guys, and they're not forcing it upon me, so I'm going to wear the freaking mask.
Yes, and they'll do it. They might even do it fine.
So hard?
Whatever.
Why is that so hard for people to understand? Well, one of the reasons is they get drunk with power.
Yes.
It's not as fun if you can't force someone to do it.
Absolutely.
See, I'm born with, I get no, it does nothing for me to force someone to do something. It's quite the opposite. If I can't convince them to want to do it,
what are you doing?
I don't get any pleasure out of it.
Yep.
You know, and that's probably a common thread amongst most libertarians.
It is. I agree.
Forces. That's why certain things, not to bring up a horrible thing, but I've always said something like rape. I mean, I've never been able to relate what people get off that. I mean, who in the world? I mean, it's so foreign to me that what people, and that's just an extreme form of force.
Right. Sure.
But that trickles down into other forms. Some people aren't that kind of extreme, but they like to force their religious beliefs or whatever it may be, or political beliefs. It's all about force. And that's where I do think we shine there, that even if people don't buy it per se, saying we just don't want to force people is a good thing. I think that
agreed.
Well, so to speak. Yeah.
You saw my intro. My intro is the same thing always. You know, just don't force people.
Yeah, and many people have said, you know, you do the best job of explaining it. But the funny thing is, I say he does to people that aren't brainwashed or in a state of cognitive dissonance. In a normal society, you articulated it perfectly. But by you just saying the word liberal, you've already triggered half the country.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. But the issue that I want people to see is this is what you're talking about, though. I think, you know, what I love about what you're saying is we're saying the same thing in a different way, right? But we're saying a similar thing, which is if I'm conservative, I have to respect the liberal as long as the liberal doesn't force his views on me. If I'm a liberal, I have to respect the conservative as long as the conservative doesn't force their views upon me. This really, in the long run, is about respect.
It is. And the lack of force. We can't stress that enough. Force. That you just, and you know what I tell them? And the good thing is the other side doesn't get to force their way on you either. And plus, we need to get out of the other side. There is no other side. This is a false dichotomy here. This whole thing of us versus them, liberals versus conservatives, is nothing but political fun.
Yes.
You know, and that's the thing I'm saying here, people, is Look, and let me tell you, I was telling a good liberal friend of mine, highly intelligent college professor the other day. One of the most conservative men I knew is one of the best men I've ever known. And a liberal woman is one of the best, I mean, in my life.
Sure, in your life.
Mm-hmm. And I've got different shades of that all through, and you do too,
Yeah.
And I said, I remember when I went to church as a kid, there was a guy, his name was Walter Kay and Martin. And he always said that when he was a kid and they farmed and they were out in the country, if you had a neighbor that got sick, you didn't even have to ask people. They'd go down and do the chores. And when we got done with our chores, we all got together and walked down to neighbor Joe's farm, and we did his chores until he got better. We need to get back to that mindset.
No, I agree. It's funny you talk about that idea of someone being, very religious or something like that. I remember this is years ago. There was a guy who wanted to run. He was a state chair, and he called me up asking my advice. And he said, Larry, I got a guy. He's a great guy, good libertarian, a great guy, and I want to run him as a candidate. And I said, okay, great. What's the problem? He said, well, there's a small problem. I said, what? He goes, he's really religious. And I said, okay. What's the problem? He goes, no, like he's really Christian. I said, okay. I said, what's the problem? He goes, well, that's the problem. I said, why? I said, hold on, be very clear. Are you telling me he's a really good guy? He's a great guy. He's libertarian, good libertarian. I said, is he forcing his views upon somebody? He said, no. I said, if his faith is part of him, and he is a good guy, why would you try to hide or remove his faith? That's part of who he is.
Yeah. And
that's part of who he is. What are we doing?
They often don't even wear it on their sleeves. That guy probably he knew him and had to tell you that, but you might have met him and not even know.
Yes.
That's the thing, and there's a great, did you go to convention?
I did.
Did you meet Joel Salatin?
Ooh, maybe. I've met a lot of people, perhaps.
He was speaking. He was one of the speakers. That's the guy that I told you about that I kind of mentored under my regenerative farming. He spoke at convention this year. And you asked me if I consider myself a conservation or a constitutional a constitutionalist, I think was the word.
Yep.
But anyhow, Joel Salatin, and I said, it depends on where I'm at, what I'm doing, how many things I can add to libertarian.
Right.
Well, Joel Salatin calls himself a Christian, libertarian, environmentalist, lunatic farmer.
Love that. Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. And he goes through and something just to hit on libertarianism right now, away from the election a little bit, but just something that we deal with is that as libertarians, we can be talking to, say, a conservative on certain things. They're like, yeah, we love this guy. And then we hit on something else, and they're like, oh, man, he doesn't support the police. Because you're for justice for Breonna Taylor.
I hear that all the time. People are looking for the one thing now I can't support you because I love you on 55 things. Oh, but the 56th. So now I'm going to go back to my old ways.
Yeah, and I always tell libertarians this when we do it to our own candidates.
Yes.
Our worst candidate's better than their best.
Absolutely. And we do it all the time.
I'm like, no, it doesn't matter. I've always said, and you've probably heard me say this, I know we like to argue, or a lot of libertarians do. We should have I hate to use this movie, but like The Purge. We should have a rule that you can bang it out and do whatever you want until our convention's over, and then we all have to galvanize.
Yes,
it all
absolutely.
Gets done, and I think we're doing a better job of it. And one of the things I tell the other parties, that ticks me off that they do, the media only covers us when they have something they can give us crap about, like that guy getting naked on stage a couple years ago.
Right.
Here's the thing: at least at our convention, we can go at it and we can take ideas and present them and bang it out. Hell, you stand up and do that at the Democrat or the Republican convention, you might have a sniper take you out.
Absolutely. All right, well, we're coming up. We're coming up on the. We'll come up on the end of the show, Brad. Anything you want to bring up that's important that I missed that you want to bring up before we start wrapping this up?
Well, another thing on Mitch, and I feel like things are going our way here.
I feel it too.
Even though I feel like we're polling better than 7, still 3 polls banging at a solid 7 has gotten me where people are like, they're accepting at least 7%. So that's a marker, a milestone there to get that. Now I break 10, and I think things get really good. And with the debates, with the debate setting, it's even if I stayed at where people thought was 7, with all the help I've gotten, I want to thank everybody again for all the help. But I'll tell you what, if you can donate, back to what you said, especially when I first started, us libertarians hate to ask for donations. If you
I don't.
put us under a lie detector,
I'm going to do it right now. Guys, I'm going to show you, I don't have a problem asking for money. Guys, if you want to help out Brad, please do it. Head on over to bradbarron2020.com. That's 2 R's, Brad Barron. If you got the cash, awesome. If you don't, no worries. He also needs volunteers. Yeah. He needs money, but he also needs volunteers. If you're in Kentucky, get on his team to physically do what he needs you to get done. If you're not Kentucky, get in his team to make the phone calls, to do the Facebook ads, to do the social media warrior stuff, right? He needs all these things. If you've got an hour a week that you can give, he could use that online. He could use that hour online without question. So please, bradbarron2020.com.
Well, did you see, I can't remember, I've done so many shows and whatnot, I can't remember what I've said where.
That's a good problem.
Yeah, the Wesley Morgan, the Republican that's a constitutional Republican, that he's a liberty side of the Republican Party, endorsed me.
Nice.
The guy that came in second to Mitch McConnell in the primaries.
Nice.
And I have one more for sure. There were 5 primary, and typically a lot of the guys that primary McConnell are towards the liberty side because that's what drives them crazy. So it's not like, oh, Brad's getting endorsed by establishment Republicans. I'm getting endorsed by liberty Republicans.
Yep.
That say, we don't agree with everything, with you, Brad, but you're way closer to us than Mitch McConnell is. And I'm getting that. And really and truly, a lot of people are just a little disappointed, but he hasn't endorsed McGrath yet. But a lot of people thought Booker should come over because, justice for Breonna Taylor, we're at the top of that. We always have.
Yep.
And our solutions are the solutions that's going to work. Our solutions are better than Booker's solutions. Let's just tell it like it is.
Yeah.
We see the problem, but our solutions are better. Throwing more government. Government's the problem to begin with the situation with Breonna Taylor. When you find yourself in a hole, stop digging.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Barriers for minorities. And I'll tell you one of the things being libertarian that has helped, that I really think the pendulum has swung in our favor, the Second Amendment.
Yes.
It's starting. Have a lot of progressives saying
it's really starting. I agree. I didn't think it was. I thought that this COVID panic would make it worse, but I think it's starting to come back. I agree.
It's been the opposite. But that's just one of the things that Wesley Morgan did. That's the Republican that came in second to Mitch. Is he donated me all his sign locations, and he had.
You told me this. Yes, that's great.
Yeah, and his volunteers are helping me. That's a big deal for name recognition. And those were like $5 a piece. I mean, he made a $2,800 max. Well, every sign, I always tell people, if you send the D's or the R's $100, that's probably getting chopped up every which way but loose. You send me $30, you just sponsored a 4-8 sign.
You just bought a sign.
It goes straight to the sign.
That's right. Yes. You just bought a sign.
This is real. So you feel bang for your buck. Your dollars are going places. But I'll close on that. It's just we met the 100,000 goal. We're on for the debates. And now we just have to. Now the real work's starting.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, Brad, thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate it. Your message is resonating with me and a lot of people out there. Good luck. Let's stay in touch. And before you, if you need any help, reach out to me. I'm happy to give you whatever advice, whatever power I can give you, I'll give to you.
All right. Thanks, Larry.
Have a good one.